Now, my brothers and sisters, we are in Daniel chapter 2, verse 10. Reading in King James Version, we're going to read it in context first. We're going to read Daniel 2:10 and 2:11, for that's the paragraph. Quote, "The Chaldeans answered before the king and said, There is not a man upon the earth that can show the king's matter. Therefore, there is no king, lord, nor ruler that asked such things at any magician or astrologer or Chaldean. And it is a rare thing that the king requireth, and there is none other that can show it before the king except the gods, whose dwelling is not with flesh." Unquote. Now, let's go ahead and read Daniel 2:10 by itself. "The Chaldeans answered before the king and said, There is not a man upon the earth that can show the king's matter. Therefore there is no king, lord, nor ruler that asked such things at any magician or astrologer or Chaldean." Now let's look at this with the Young's Literal Translation. Quote, "The Chaldeans have answered before the king and are saying, There is not a man on earth who is able to show the king's matter. Therefore no king, chief, and ruler have asked such a thing as this of any scribe and enchanter and Chaldean." Unquote. Now let's go ahead and parse out this verse. The Chaldeans answered. Let's parse out answered. Remember, this is in Aramaic. It's a PL stem, which is equivalent to the quell in Hebrew, so it's a causative. And it's a perfect aspect, which means it's a completed action. So, answered before the king and said. Let's look at this, or parse out the Aramaic for that same one. Said, PL stem, so it's just like the quell in Hebrew, which is a casual action, participle, so you can put basically to be, so basically to be, and said casually, "There is not a man upon the earth that can." Let's parse out the word can. It's a PL imperfect, so it's a casual but yet not completed. That can show, now let's look at that, that's an APL infinitive. So let's look at this one. This one is a causative conjunction, and the infinitive, you can just basically put an ing. So causative, show, that can show. So they're talking about this action. It can show this, can't show this, to the king's matter. Therefore, there is no king, lord, nor ruler that asketh. Let's parse out this, that asketh. It's a PL perfect, so that means that we have a casual completed that asked. Let's continue. Such things of any magician or astrologer or Chaldean. They're being, what it seems like, very not taking the king's word that he's going to kill them as being serious if they don't show this dream, because they're being very casual in their response to him, and it seems like they're being high and mighty throughout this whole thing with him and not taking his threats serious. We'll have to find out as we go along what is going on, but so far it doesn't seem that they're too overly worried about what the king has decreed about them if they don't show the interpretation or the dream. I'm real curious what John Gill thinks about this verse, so I'm going to read it and find out. Quote, "The Chaldeans answered before the king and said as follows, in order to appease his wrath and cool his resentment and bring him to reason. There is not a man upon the earth can show the king's matter, or upon the dry land, upon the continent throughout the whole world, or any country whatever. Not one single man can be found, be he ever so wise and learned, that can show the king what he requires. And yet Daniel afterwards did, and so it appears by this confession, that he was greater than they, or any other of the same profession with them. This is one argument they used to convince the king of the unreasonableness of his demand, it being such that no man on earth was equal to another follows. Therefore there is no king, lord, nor ruler. There neither is, nor never was, any potentate or prince, be who he will, whether as distinguishes a king, or the province or empire is very large, or lord over cities, or rulers in the villages belonging to one city. In short, no man of power or authority, whether supreme or subordinate, that asked things of any magician, astrologer, Chaldean, never was such a thing required of any before, nor instant they suggest could be produced in ancient history or in present age in any kingdom or court under the heavens, or such a request being made, or that anything of this kind ever was insisted upon, and therefore hoped the king would not insist upon it, and which no doubt was true. Pharaoh required of his wise men to tell him the interpretation of his dream, but not the dream itself. So we see in the story with Pharaoh and Joseph in Genesis 41, that Pharaoh knew his dream. In this case now, Nebuchadnezzar does not know his dream. So we've just read John Gills, and he points out some good facts here, that the astrologers were giving titles to the rulers like we would, from president to governor to mayor, so they're breaking it down from the highest order ruler down to the lowest of cities and that. And they're showing that no one has ever requested this in any form of the government whatsoever in any time, hoping to bring reason to the king, and as they casually, discuss this with him. A lot of times when people do this, it seems that they're older. They must be older than King Nebuchadnezzar, because usually wiser people who are trying to teach wisdom are showing them that this is how it is. And if it's done casually, which is this has been done, they're usually older people that do that, because they know more. And they're looking at King Nebuchadnezzar's decree as being rash and not thought through, which probably isn't. But still, that's how they're coming across, because they're answering him casually. And I'd have to say thus that they are older people, and that they're trying to bring reason to this man, who seems to be subjected to what seems to be tyrants of emotions that are not ruled. We're going to go forward and find out, but so far this is where we're at now, and let's see what more we can get out of the verses that are forthcoming. And notice now that Daniel has been told this stuff from, as we're going to find soon, further down, from one of the servants of the king, who's been sent out to kill these wise men, including Daniel. And he's telling this to Daniel in Aramaic, apparently. And then Daniel has picked up on all these nuances and understanding what's happening, and he is now bringing forth all this writing down of what has been said, and it seems to be very detailed. So whether this has been written down that has been said and Daniel could get to it, I don't know. But so far we have a lot of information here that God's given us, and let's see where it goes. May God richly bless you as you continue to study His Word.